She's starting out with a body weight squat. She's going to do a few reps. She's crossing her arms. She's doing a good job of initiating the movement with her hips. You can see her shin is pretty straight up and down, and her knee doesn't come in front of her toe, and she's doing a good job of getting parallel, and she's not hunching over. What you see a lot of people do wrong, and if you feel this or see this in the mirror, if the first thing that bends is your knees, then you're doing it incorrect. All the weight's towards her toes, and now her knee's way in front of her toe, putting way too much stress on your knee joint. So the first thing that happens is she sits back. It's like you're sitting back in a stool. And now the emphasis is on the hamstrings and the glutes. She inhales on the way down, exhales on the way up, and then she's going to try a couple with a bar. If you ladies feel frisky, then you can actually get a bar, and it's the exact same movement. She does a good job with her posture, and she's looking slightly up, which is what you want. And this is an example of the back squat. All right. Now we're going on to the lunge. Starting off with a body weight lunge. She's going to step out as far as she can. Same thing, the leg that is in front, you want the shin straight up and down. You do not want your knee to come in front of your toe. Same thing, she has good posture. She's not bent at the waist. This is a good example of a body weight lunge. The way you can do it incorrectly is if you take too short a step, then your knee is in front of your toe, putting too much stress on your knee joint. The other way you could mess this up is if you bend at the waist and you have poor posture. If it looks like you're hunched over, you don't want to do that. And you could do the exact same thing with some resistance. Once you get good at the body weight, then you grab dumbbells and or plates, and now you've added resistance. You just let the weight hang at the side. Now we're doing step ups. The box that you would like to use would be if you set your foot on it, your thigh is parallel with the ground. And if you feel like that's something that you're not comfortable with, get a lower box. She's alternating the lead leg, and the major emphasis is on the leg that's on the box. Similar almost to a one-legged squat. You're not driving the leg up, you're pushing through the foot that's on the box. She's got good posture. Same thing, you set your foot on top, shin is straight up and down, and you step up. That's a step up. And then you could get dumbbells and or plates to add resistance. Now we're doing a split lateral lunge. You're going to get your feet pretty wide, wider than your shoulders, and you're going side to side. Now just like a squat, your hips will be the first thing that moves back. She's doing it correctly here. If she did it incorrectly, the first thing that would bend would be her knee, and her knee would come in front of her toe, just like all the other exercises. There's too much stress on your kneecap. So the first thing that moves is your hip and your butt back. She's got good posture. If she wanted to add resistance, she would hold one plate or one dumbbell in the middle, and that would add resistance. Split lateral lunge. Here we're doing the dumbbell row. The foot that is on the ground matches the arm that's working. So her right arm is working, which means her right leg's on the ground. She's going to slightly bend her right knee, which will take a little pressure off her lower back. She's going to look straight ahead to keep her spine in alignment. And the way most people will do this incorrectly is their left hand will be too close to their left knee. So she brought it up. Now when she does this, her back is rounded. It's not as flat as it should be. So if she gets her left hand even with her left shoulder, like it is right there, now she's got a flatter back. And she's pulling that weight up towards her hip, and she's going down all the way till her right arm is straight. And that is a dumbbell row. We're doing a pull down right here. We're using a rubber band, a large band. A lot of gyms have machines where you can do this. She's pulling her elbows in tight. She's just slightly leaning back, and she's using her back muscles to pull this down. So if you have a machine, you'll use a bunch of different grips, probably overhand with a rubber band. That's a good way to do a pull down. This is a Superwoman. It's working your lower back and a little bit of your glutes and your hamstrings. She's going up and down in a slow and controlled fashion. You shouldn't be flopping around like a fish out of water. And her legs and arms are straight. The way people do this incorrectly is they'll bend their elbows and bring them in close, and their legs are bent. Now the emphasis isn't so much on the glutes and lower back, and you have a better chance of hurting yourself. So arms and legs straight. Yeah. Here's the dumbbell bench. Her feet are flat, her hips are flat on the bench, and her head's flat on the bench. So all those three things have to be flat. She's lowering the dumbbells in line with her chest, which is exactly what you want. and she's pushing them straight up. When you push them up, you don't have to bang the dumbbells at the top. You don't even have to touch them to each other. So she lowers it and she pushes them straight up. She's going to exhale on the way up, and that's a good dumbbell bench.
Okay.
When you're doing a dumbbell fly, your hands will be facing each other, and you want to keep your wrist, your elbow, and your shoulder joint in one straight line. And you'll lower the dumbbells parallel with the ground. And then you come back up. It's like you're giving a big person a bear hug. The way you could do it incorrectly is if your elbow joint is locked and you're trying to keep your arms straight. That's too much stress on the elbow joint. You could also do it wrong by trying to go too low, which is too much stress on your shoulder joint. Another way you could do it incorrectly is if your wrist, shoulder, and elbow are not in a straight line. So that'd look like this. You want to keep all three joints in a straight line. Elbow slightly bent, parallel with the ground, back up, exhale on the way up. This dumbbell incline, very similar to a dumbbell bench. It's just a different angle, so it's working your muscles a little differently. Exhale on the way up, inhale down, lower the dumbbell even with your shoulder, press straight up. It's a dumbbell incline. Okay, we're doing regular push-ups. Same thing, you can see her wrist, elbow, and shoulder pretty much stay in one line. Her back is flat. If you're unable to do these, that's fine. You can do a modified push-up with your knees on the ground and your feet crossed, and that makes it a little easier. That's a modified push-up. If you still struggle with these, then you can just do partial motions. So she'd do the same modified push-up, and she's just not going to go down as low. And once she gets better at it, then she'll go down lower. These are dumbbell side laterals. You can use smaller plates too if you're unable to do a dumbbell. Side laterals, my elbows are slightly bent, and I'm raising the dumbbell to parallel with the ground. The way you can do this incorrectly is if your elbows were straight the whole time, putting too much stress on your elbow joint. So my elbows stay slightly bent. The other way you could do this incorrectly is if your wrists were higher than your elbows. If your wrists are higher than your elbows, that's incorrect. So the way you do a side lateral correctly, elbows slightly bent and elbows higher than wrists, raising parallel with the ground. Then I'll go straight to front laterals, same thing, elbows slightly bent, and I'm raising the dumbbells to parallel with the ground. The way you can do it wrong is elbows straight, or the way you could also do it wrong is raising it above parallel. Then I'll go to bent laterals. I'm going to get my back as flat as I can, and that's the hardest part. And then I'm raising the dumbbells to the side. The way you could do this wrong is by having your back rounded instead of flat. Bent lateral. The last one for the shoulders will be upright rows. You can use dumbbells, plate, or a bar. I'm doing an upright row. The way you could do this wrong is if your wrist is higher than your elbow. You want your elbow higher than your wrist, not the opposite. Another way you could do it wrong is if you're raising it too low. You're trying to get it to at least collarbone level, and that's the upright row. Here's a regular crunch. Feet are flat, knees are bent. You're squeezing your shoulder blades towards your hips. It's just a 3 to 4 inch movement, trying to compress your shoulders to your hips. And then we'll go to a lateral crunch. She'll cross her left leg or right leg over, and it's a diagonal motion, opposite elbow to knee. And your right ankle's on her right knee here. And then she'll do the opposite side. Then you go to a toe touch, and your legs won't be completely straight, but they'll be pretty close, and you're reaching up towards your toes. It's a little bit harder than a regular crunch. These are one-legged V-ups, her right leg, and it'll be her left hand. So it's opposite. So these are harder than the regular crunches. That's a one-legged V-up. Now she's going to do a heel touch, which is a lateral movement. You're just getting your feet a little wider than you would on a normal crunch, and she's going side to side, touching her heel. Then the next exercise is Rocky crunches. Her feet are crossed in the air, and she's going 2 diagonal movements equals 1 rep. So her shoulders raise off the ground, and she's going side to side. She goes